Hi, I'm Brianna from the Fabric Patch in Ephrata, Washington, and today we're going to talk about labels. Labels are an important thing to put on any of your projects, whether it's as simple as a stocking or as detailed and intimate as a quilt. So there's a lot of ways you can label your projects, even projects that are little that maybe you're gifting as friends, maybe selling at a gift show. There's lots of options. The most regular, most used way is using a panel of labels. So a lot of quilt shops, we have this one currently available, this is a panel of labels, and it talks about different things. So all of them are a little bit different depending on occasion and color, and you also have difference in sizes and shapes depending on what you're wanting your finished look to be. When I label a quilt, there's a couple important things that you should put in your label. One is you should always put your name. First and last, maybe a middle initial. It's something that you're gonna put on your quilt, your project, your stocking, that's gonna go through the generations. So when you're a great grandmother, someone's gonna open this box and they're gonna tell stories about, oh, I remember when she quilted for me and I still have this quilt from her. You're just gonna spark that family connection, and it's something really cool. I have to say I am not the best at labeling my projects. I should be better, because I think it is so neat when someone brings in a quilt from the late 1900s and they show it to me, and it's just so cool, and they can tell me the story of, oh yeah, this is my grandma's aunt, and all of these stories. So it's really special. So always put your name on it. Put where you're from. Put Ephrata, Washington. If you're cruising around the state, just put, Washington State. And also put the year. A lot of people will put a year when it started. I started this quilt in 2020 and the quilt finished in 2021. So you can also put those dates in there. You can also put that this was started by Grandma Foss in 1983 and finished by, Brianna in 2019. So it's kind of exciting just to have these different layers of information. You can also put a Bible verse, a quote that's really special to you at this time that you are creating your label. It's all those important things that your family, the generations past you, are going to find and see as a cool little treasure. It'll be in your handwriting, so I think it's really important. You can always type out a label and print it off of your printer, but sometimes it's kind of nice to have that tangible, this is, my great grandma's handwriting. I remember the note she used to send me. So it's that one extra bit of special that you can put on your label, is putting it in your own writing. If you need some inspiration on labels, check out Brittany's quilt story on our Every Quilt Has a Story episodes on our YouTube channel, and maybe you can draw some inspiration to make your own personal label. So name, date, where you're from. 3 most important things. Also, a couple ways of making them. You can make them into cute little blocks, put some borders and stuff around them to make it a little more interesting, using some of the fabrics from the top of your quilt to move to the back. And the process is super easy. So you're going to take your label, whether you've bordered it or you've just taken it right off your label panel. You're going to do fusible interfacing. This is 911FF from Pellon is what I use. It is a featherweight fusible interfacing, so one side is smooth and the other side's kind of bumpy. The bumpy side is the glue. So what we're going to do is we're going to take soft side of your interfacing to the right side of your label, and then just going to sew around it. Using your 1/4 inch seam allowance, you're going to sew right around that bad boy. And then why I like to use the interfacing is it makes it really easy to turn right side out, and you have all of those raw edges encased. So all you're going to do is you're going to make a little slit down the back side of your interfacing, just the interfacing, don't hit your label. And then when you turn it right side out, you have this perfectly turned, and you can press it a little bit. Keep in mind there's glue back here, so make sure you use a pressing sheet so you protect your ironing surface or your iron. And make sure you get those points turned out really nice with your purple thing. And you have this cute little block. You still have that little slice that we originally used, but this is now sticky. So you can now take the back of your quilt, you can fuse this down in place. Again, it can be in the lower right corner, the lower left corner, it doesn't matter. It can be in the center. It can be a heart-shaped. Since you're creating your own, you know, essentially applique piece, you can make it any shape you want as long as you can turn it right side out. So fuse it down using that sticky part of your interfacing. Stick it where you want to. I like to always sew in part of my binding with my, part of my label with my binding. So I usually put it in a corner. And then I just hand stitch this real nice all the way down. You can also top stitch it if you want to. Just keep in mind that you'll see that top stitch line in the front of your project. A lot of people want to put their label on before they send their quilt maybe to the quilters or to the long armer. Keep in mind that label is going to be stitched through, because if it's on the back of your quilt, the long armer isn't able to see that as they're stitching. So they're going to stitch through the whole label one way or another. Also, keep it towards the more center of your quilt if you're going to put it pieced in the back and let your quilter sew it in, because we cannot 110% be sure that as we get to the bottom of your quilt, your entire label is going to be in this corner. So make sure you definitely inset it quite a bit so you have room to trim that quilt up, put that binding, and your entire label is still in your quilt. The other thing you can do is if you just have some regular fabric, you can also write it right on with your regular marker. Keep in mind you want an acid-free, bleed-free permanent marker or pen. We use in the store the Fine Line pen, which is a nice fine point, really eligible pen. It's permanent, bleed free, and it will last, and it's also acid free. There's also a product called IdentiPen, which has a chunkier bit and more of a felt tip end, so you have both sides depending on if you prefer your penmanship in a thicker ink or in a thinner ink. That's also an option if you want something a little bit thicker than a Fine Line. So there's lots of options for pens. Just make sure you use a fabric quality permanent pen to write on your label. It will last through the washings, and it will also not bleed, so that black ink won't transfer to your label and dye your label, or transfer to your quilt and then put kind of a dark spot on your quilt. You can also use tags. So these cute little guys that you can add to your project. These tags come pre-embroidered essentially on, and you just fold it and stick it right into your binding. It's this nice little three-dimensional tag. With the tags, keep in mind you aren't able to put your name, your date, all of that information on there. So if it's something that's going to maybe go on a stocking, or maybe gifts that you're going to sell at a trunk show kind of thing, that might be more personal for this. Or if you're going to make a whole bunch of projects for one grandbaby, or however you're going to do it, you can absolutely say, get tags that say Nana loves you, or Grandma loves you, or Made with Love, or You're awesome. You can get all of those. You can also, if you are a machine embroiderer person or have a machine embroidery company in your neighborhood or close to you, they might be able to make you custom tags that do say made by Brianna Matskis, and just leave it at that. You could also put with your felt tip pen, your permanent pen, a year on this tag. It would definitely still stay. So you can do other things. This is super simple, super fast, a no-brainer. You can just get a whole pile of them and keep putting them in, putting them in, putting them in. So another option, tags or just a good old label. So I hope that you will put a label on that quilt you're going to give away soon, or think about the label you're going to put on the quilt you're working on right now. So get your label, get your interfacing, and enjoy.
Thank you for watching our video. We invite you to leave a comment, hit the like button, or better yet, subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode. You can also visit our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or Pinterest pages, or find all of those things and our online store at fabricpatch.net.